Proline TV. We are live on the Our Lads Football Network. We're talking NFL, and we're talking specifically about the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so whenever we get an opportunity to do that, we are welcomed by Alex Kozora of SteelersDepot.com. Alex, thanks for doing this again.
Hey, Greg, appreciate you having me back on.
It's always a great time talking Pittsburgh Steelers football with you there, Alex. It's a way to get us ready for the season and, of course, let us know what's going on with the Steelers. So, of course, this is an incredible offseason for the Steelers franchise, having Aaron Rodgers in the building. I know the last time we spoke, he was still not with the team. You had mentioned how you thought that might be a little bit of an issue with him not being there. Doing OTAs, and then of course Aaron does what Aaron does, and that's lets everybody know afterwards, hey, I got married, man, leave me alone. So it's like, well, okay, this is a whole part of dealing with Aaron Rodgers, but as a Jet fan, I kind of know Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think he's that bad of a guy. I just think he's different. And so how do you think things are going with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I know hope springs eternal this time of year for Pittsburgh and 31 other teams, but I think he's really been sincere and genuine about his excitement for this team. And Pittsburgh has a unique training camp. They have a destination camp. They go away to a small college, St. Vincent College, a D2 school, or maybe D3 school in Latrobe, PA, and they go there for 3 weeks each year. And that's a time to really bond with teammates. I think he stepped up as a leader, as a mentor for a young quarterback like Will Howard. You watch him in stretch line. He's with a defense each day, trying to get to know somebody new for the team. So ultimately, as well as I do, Greg, that if Rodgers wins, the team has success. They'll love him. If they lose, if they struggle, they'll hate him. It'll be a quick chapter. That's the bottom line. It's a results-oriented business. But I think overall, fans have warmed up to Aaron Rodgers. His first couple of days at camp, there was just some polite golf claps whenever he would walk out. By the end, a lot more cheers for him. Okay. So I think the fan base has warmed up. But the final record will dictate the story of Aaron Rodgers' chapter in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no question about that. And we're going to go over the depth chart for the Steelers, and we're going to go over things like camp battles, any key injuries to keep an eye on, that maybe there'll be a 53-man roster surprise, also get your breakout performers for the offense and the defense, and, of course, check out all of the rookies and see how they've done so far, including the UDFAs. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. First of all, let me pop up the depth chart from Our Lads, and we'll start on offense. So let's go ahead and before we get started, I should bring this up. So I was doing the research for the team. I try to familiarize myself with each team, the franchise, and how things have gone with them to get the fans' experience, and noticed that they have not won a playoff game in 7 years. They have won just one AFC North title in the same span. And this is the longest drought the franchise has been in since they started their first dynasty in 1972. And the reason I bring that up is because I think it is important for the outside fans and media and so forth to understand what the Steeler fans are feeling and what they're used to. And that's why when you get the criticism that Mike Tomlin's been getting, I can see why. I'm not saying it's warranted, but I can see why based on what I just said.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh, the expectations are simply higher than maybe other cities. Some cities would love the Mike Tomlin never had a losing season, but Steeler fans understandably loathe that stat because it lowers the bar of a team that expects to do more than just win 9 games, just compete, just make it to the playoffs. As you said, no AFC North title for 4 straight years now, the longest playoff drought since the merger, effectively. Since the Chuck Noll era, they've not gone this long without winning a playoff game. And just the frustration of you have, new quarterback room last year, same results. Pittsburgh has done some different things, new coaching staff in a lot of ways, but getting those same results. So what will it take to finally break through? Will it require that franchise quarterback to not just become Super Bowl contenders, but to win a playoff game? We'll see. But with all the change this year, if the same results occur where you just go 10-7 or 9-8 and get one and done, the frustration will continue to mount. The team really feels that internally and externally that they have to get over this hump.
Okay. So do you feel then that there is real, not to say that Mike Tomlin is feeling pressure, but that there really is again, I don't even know if I want to use the word mandate, that they really have to show progress. And if they don't, and especially if they show some regression, then is it even possible that we would be talking in the offseason or just before the offseason about a possible coaching change?
No, and that is the tricky part, because we talk about the pressure, but what is the consequence if they don't get over that hump? Tomlin's job is safe. He signed a contract extension last summer for several more seasons. He's not going anywhere. Very likely his arc will be like Tomlin and Chuck Noll, where he'll get to Cowher and Chuck Noll, where he'll get to go out on his terms and retire as opposed to being fired. But there's still going to be an angst and a pressure, I think, internally too, to go out there and win, which Pittsburgh has not done enough of in recent years.
All right. Let's start at quarterback. So, yes, Aaron Rodgers, of course, he is the main story. No question about it. Again, I've seen him up close. I know what the deal is. But, I mean, the thing I have to know from you, as best you can tell me, of course, is from my perspective, you look at a coordinator like Arthur Smith, and he wants to run the football. And you look at a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, after what happened with the Jets last year, being the 32nd in the NFL in rushing. And that's because a lot of people put it on Aaron, because he really was running the offense. Check, he's checking off the run plays for the pass plays and whatever. Or maybe it's just the Jets weren't very good. He's just doing what he wants to do. I don't know. But how do you think that relationship has gone so far? And what is your prediction on how you think the relationship is going to go if the coordinator wants to run the ball and Aaron starts to throw the ball a little too much?
It's a good question, and we can't predict exactly how it's going to go. It's such an important question. That OC quarterback relationship is probably the most important and fragile and valuable relationship of the entire team. But I have to think Aaron Rodgers knew, at least in part, what he was signing up for. Arthur Smith's reputation is one of the most, if not the most, run-heavy OC in football. And this was not a shotgun thing where this thing came out of nowhere. This was, as we talked about last time, a long 3-month wait. And so should be no delusions of grandeur about what offense this is. And I think for Rodgers, frankly, yes, he likes to throw the football, but he wants to win. He lost 5 games. He won 5 games for the Jets last year, has won a playoff game in several seasons, whatever it takes to win. In Pittsburgh, and I'm sure Rodgers knows, you can't put it all on him. He was second in the NFL in pass attempts last year. You can't have that recipe and expect success from it. So if the more that it can be taken off of his plate, the better overall. I think Rodgers has looked good. I think it's been a good working relationship so far between Arthur Smith. I think it's good for Smith to be in year 2. I think last year as a first-year OC in Pittsburgh, maybe those reins were a little bit too tight around those quarterbacks because it's your first year and you're trying to run your offense. I think also schematically, Smith can run his offense more to what he wants and envisions and is philosophically in tune with, now that you've had another offseason to fix his offensive line, to draft a running back, to add some pieces, add a DK Metcalf, which is his A.J. Brown type of receiver in this offense. So it's more of his offense, more comfort for Arthur Smith, may release those reins a little bit. Rodgers has looked good. The arm looks live. Mobility is going to be limited, but he's still testing it out. We'll see how it looks in November. But I'll tell you this, Greg, that pocket can stay clean for Rodgers, which is a big if. But if it can, that arm still plays really well for Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. As far as the rest of the room, Mason Rudolph, interesting. And again, hopefully we won't need him. But interesting that he actually had his best season in 2023 coming off the bench. And then goes to Tennessee, and that was a disaster. But that's because the Titans are a disaster. So I'm assuming the Steelers are really happy to have him as a number 2 in case they need him for spot duty. And then you've got the Thompson-Howard situation. Now, Howard's not going anywhere. But I thought it was very interesting remembering the Will Howard, Skylar Thompson, Kansas State situation and how ironic it is that they're kind of back where they were once before when Skylar Thompson beat out Will Howard, when everybody thought Skylar Thompson was the better college quarterback, like I did. I remember those days. I remember that battle, and it's like, oh yeah, Skylar Thompson's better than Will Howard. I've seen Will Howard. He's not Skylar Thompson. And then, of course, everything transformed after that. But yeah, tell me a little bit about the rest of the room and how you think it's going to look when the 53-man roster is set.
Time is a flat circle, Greg. It feels like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Rudolph, as you said, is that ideal number 2, maybe one of the best, if not the best, number 2 backup quarterback who can run your offense exactly how a coaching staff wants him to run it. Not going to elevate it and win a lot of games. He did well in 23, but he is who he is at this point, which is that ideal number 2 that can come in, run your offense, not lose you the game, and help your cause if you can help him out with a good defense and a good running game. Number 3 spot, It's a little bit complicated because Will Howard broke the pinky finger in his throwing hand midway through training camp, a freak exchange issue. He jammed it, he broke it. So he has not gotten to play in the preseason. The Steelers have their finale on Thursday. I'm going to strongly guess he's not playing in this one, not been determined definitively yet, but I don't think he's going to make it back in time. So Thompson's been getting those number 3 reps. He's had a really nice summer overall. He played really well in the opener in the preseason game against Jacksonville. So could Howard start the year on IR to return, which put Thompson as number 3? Possible. Do you try to maybe flip Thompson to the Jets or the Saints, a quarterback needy team? Howard's going to be on this team in some capacity. He's not going to be cut, obviously, but I don't know exactly how it'll play out because of his injury, and Thompson's good play.
Okay. Running back room. So Caleb Johnson, of course, is a pretty big story. Excellent college running back, fits the Steelers' running game perfectly. You bring in a few, matter of fact, just looking at the depth chart there, specifically 4 free agents. But the big one is Kenneth Gainwell. Do you look at this as a 3-man room? And how's Johnson look so far?
Committee is certainly going to be the word to use with this group. It's not going to be a one-man band like it was maybe in the early Najee Harris years or in the Le'Veon Bell years, the traditional Pittsburgh Steelers of the early 2000s and 2010s. Johnson, I think, has looked good as a runner. He's progressed overall. He's gotten better, I think, in a lot of aspects of his game throughout training camp. The thing, Greg, is that I'm not concerned about his talents as a runner. He can be an effective running back. There's explosiveness, there's burst, there's some big play ability in his game. There's enough vision. It's everything else. Can he earn the trust of the coaching staff as a pass protector, as a receiver? A couple drops in training camp, a couple missed assignments. In the first preseason game, he didn't leak out to be a checkdown option, led to a sack. Those things do not play well for any rookie running back, especially when you're trying to work with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers who expects, understandably so, perfection from that position and keeping him upright and giving him checkdown options because he peppered Jets running backs with targets and receptions last season. So that may limit and cap his upside, at least initially, until he can prove that. Warren, not had a great camp, but he's been available. They've held him out, which kind of tells you he's going to be the number 1 back for this team. He can do it all. Gainwell is interesting. Pittsburgh signed him really for his receiving chops, and he's shown that throughout training camp. I'm a big nerd. I chart some of the training camp stats just to try to get some objective measure of what's happening in camp. Gainwell had 22 carries and 22 receptions in the team period of training camp, which suggests they're going to get him involved as much as a receiver as he is going to be a running back. So they're going to lean on that. He can pass protect a little bit too. And if Johnson's going to be limited in a pass down situation, then Gainwell is going to benefit and play more early on this year.
So really what we're looking at is the pecking order should be Gainwell number 2 at early in the season, you think?
It's kind of going to be number 2 wearing different hats. Johnson's going to play on the early downs. He's going to tote the rock. He's going to carry the ball more. Gainwell's going to be split out more, involved in the screen game, the pass game, third down, that type of stuff more. Warren's still going to be the starter. So again, it's a committee. It gets messy, very common under Arthur Smith for everything to kind of be jumbled up a little bit. But Johnson, how much he'll play and how often he'll play really will be dictated by how much he can round out the edges in his game.
So pretty much like Warren will come out and he's the number 1 back. He's maybe out there at first and second downs. Gainwell comes in third down. And then the next series, say Johnson's the number 1 back for the first and second down and Gainwell replaces him in the third down. You see a lot of that happening more than anything?
Loosely, yes. Yeah. Now, Warren can also be a really good third down back. That's the role he occupied his first couple of years. And so there's a lot of trust there. So again, it's hard to really sit there and say, define clear ABC roles, but Johnson early down, Warren kind of everything, Gainwell passing down. That's how loosely it'll go. And
do you think that's it? Just 3 men?
Yeah, just 3. They cut Cordell Patterson early in training camp. Got some interesting practice squad competition. Lou Nichols, who had a really good college career, has done well in preseason action, a couple big runs. That's practice squad material. Trey Sermon, the former Colt, could make it as well, but none of those guys are threatening for the 53.
Okay, now let's take a look at wide receiver. And of course, the big news is DK Metcalf. So how's he taking it to his new digs?
Yeah, he's looked good. Like I said earlier, that A.J. Brown type of receiver, that big physical yak threat, great blocker, exactly what Arthur Smith wants as the number 1 receiver in his offense. Him and Aaron Rodgers have really developed good chemistry that heated up throughout training camp after probably a slow start for those 2 guys. The hands aren't perfect. He'll drop a couple, but the big plays are certainly there, and Rodgers found him. So Rodgers does a great job of finding his playmakers because Arthur Smith sometimes, the critique can be, doesn't always lean on his playmakers, likes to spread the love more than get the ball to his 1A and 1B kind of guys. Rodgers will find Metcalf early and often, so that's been no concern. The big concern is what's behind and next to DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin's missed large chunk of the summer with an injury. Roman Wilson had a quiet start. He's been better lately, done well in preseason action. Team showing renewed interest in Gabe Davis. He's coming in for a visit Tuesday. You have Scotty Miller, who's had a good camp, but it's still, he's kind of is who he is at this point. Robert Woods, good chance he's going to be cut. He's fading fast here on this depth chart. So it's kind of, what else do you have in that receiver room? And there's still some unanswered questions there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just even thinking about Robert Woods as like a number 2 is just that really wouldn't more than likely work. And the fact that he's not having a good camp tells me that, pretty much right about that. Every player has his day. Looks like Robert Woods is getting to that. But so far, Roman Wilson has not stepped up yet. We haven't seen anything yet to lead us to believe that he's that guy that they expected when they drafted him last year.
It's getting better. He had 2 catches for 72 yards in the preseason game this weekend against Tampa Bay. He's showing the speed. He's come on stronger. It was a really, really quiet start for Roman Wilson. There's still been some connection issues getting on the same page. Young receiver, missed his rookie year with a veteran like Aaron Rodgers. So it's getting better, but is it enough? Now, obviously, there's the tight ends we'll talk about and their use in the passing game. My big concern is less about can those other guys play in a supporting role, but what happens if DK Metcalf goes down for a month or the 3 games that George Pickens was lost for last year? Then you're at a really tight spot. So I think Pittsburgh, the whole point of the summer was to evaluate that receiver 2 position and what else do you have to dictate and determine, do you bring somebody else in? Still have questions there. I think that's why they're going back to a Gabe Davis to see what he can offer this team right before week 1.
Any chance that with all of the draft capital they have next year, knowing where they are this year with Aaron, because nobody knows what happens to Aaron Rodgers in 2026, that they might try to invest in not just picking up a free agent or making a trade and give away a 7th-round draft pick, but make a significant trade?
I'm not going to rule it out given this offseason that's been very, quote-unquote, un-Steeler-like with some of the moves they've made, but I don't think that's their plan or intention, especially if they were to go sign Gabe Davis. They want to really keep their powder dry for next year's draft picks. Omar Khan's talked about liking the potentially dozen picks they'll have that certainly could be used as assets to move up and get a quarterback, which will be high on their list next year. So, could a lower level trade happen? I've looked at Alec Pierce in Indianapolis, especially if Daniel Jones wins that job, not throwing the deep ball like they will with Anthony Richardson. That would make sense to me. But I think overall, Pittsburgh wants to hold on to their draft capital next year.
Okay. You mentioned the tight end room. So Jonnu Smith, of course, he's got a relationship there with his former coach. So he had a really big breakout year last year for Miami. And that really does give Pittsburgh one of the better 3-man tight end rooms in the NFL, with Darnell Washington seemingly like he's getting even better each year. So how are we going to see, just like we talked about with the receivers, and I think you were alluding to that, are we going to see Jonnu Smith and Freiermuth on the field a lot more unless they're able to figure out and put in a real adequate number 2 wide receiver?
Yes, the plan is, and this is music to Arthur Smith's ears, to be a multi-tight end type of team, to run a lot of 12 personnel, run a lot of 13 personnel, even some 4 tight end sets. They dabbled with that in training camp with Connor Hayward being on the field. And I think the attractiveness they see about 13 personnel, even 14 personnel, is really making it a matchup problem for defenses. If you're facing 13, 3 tight ends, 4 tight ends, how do you respond? Do you go heavy and bring in your run stoppers to stop the run when you're facing guys like Darnell Washington? It's just traditionally your 13 personnel is going to be your run-heavy groupings. You can do that, but then they might spread the field. Pittsburgh might on you and split out Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and even Darnell Washington, and those guys are coverage and matchup problems. So it can really be that chess match Pittsburgh can stay one step ahead of. But yeah, I think overall the key is to spread the ball. Metcalf be your number 1, and then the ball gets spread around from there. Freiermuth's been consistent. Jonnu Smith, you mentioned his history with Arthur Smith. He's the best athlete of that tight end room. His physical nature, his yak ability, it all plays well with what Pittsburgh is trying to accomplish more of this year, more big plays, more run after catch. And then Darnell Washington might be the most valuable member in that tight end room because he's that big body, unique blocker. Got to be, for my money, the best blocking tight end in football, not just as a run blocker, but in pass protection. Pittsburgh can do full slide protections and have Darnell Washington block the backside edge rusher. And that's going to be super, I think, critical when you're facing a Myles Garrett. How do you solve Myles Garrett? You can chip with Darnell Washington, or you can full slide, have your left tackle and left guard block Myles Garrett, while Washington takes care of the backside defensive end. You can't do that with most tight ends in football. So it's a really, really unique aspect. And Washington's had a great camp. Can also offer something as a receiver. He's got big, strong hands. He's a build-up runner, but once he gets going, he's tough to stop and can be a goal line threat as well. So it's a really deep tight end room. Pittsburgh ran a lot of 13 personnel last year. They were inefficient at it, though. They're going to be a whole lot better and a lot more efficient running it this year.
And this is a 4-man room, correct?
Yes, I would expect 4 tight ends to be kept. So Freiermuth, Smith, Washington, and Connor Hayward. Galbraith is an interesting rookie, a good athlete, but he's practice squad material.
Okay. And what we passed on the wide receiver situation. So Skowronek, he's going to make it because of his special teams ability. Is that correct?
Yeah, Ben Skoronek's got a toe injury right now, but he should make it to be a number 4 receiver, special teamer, big body blocker. So there's still some debate there, especially if Gabe Davis were to get added. Will Scotty Miller make it? I like his odds right now. Woods is fading, but you would expect Metcalf, Austin, Skowronek, Wilson, then that 5th spot, 6th spot, we'll see.
All right. And those last 4 guys don't have a chance.
There's some interesting talent there. Max Hurlman, Keyshawn Williams have had good rookie camps, but that's more practice squad. Hurlman's a good athlete. Williams a good returner, but we're talking practice squad with those 2.
Offensive line. And the thing I noticed the most with the offensive line is their depth. That's where there are some potential holes. Is that the case?
Yeah, some big holes. I mean, certainly the starters have a lot to prove. I think it's been a good summer for those guys, those young tackles. Broderick Jones had a tough start. He's gotten better. Troy Fautun, it looks like the next breakout, a real big hit Pittsburgh has had after a lost rookie season. Zach Frazier, going to be a really good center, hopefully even better than that. McCormick's been good at right guard, but the depth is a big concern. There's injuries there. Kevin Anderson's been out for over 2 weeks. Ryan McCullum, the backup center, has missed large chunks of training camp, has not played in the preseason. You have Spencer Anderson as a backup. And then from there, it gets really dicey overall. They brought in Andres Pete, who's fighting for a spot right now. Offensive line talent is hard to find this time of year, but I think, Greg, they're going to have to go externally to go add somebody, probably a tackle at the very least, come cut downs, maybe even a small trade.
Is there a guy as far as the depth is concerned on that backup unit that you can point to and say he's the one guy that we can count on, or not really?
I mean, Spencer Anderson's definitely going to be next man up at both guard spots. You know, he's really not somebody that should start long-term for Pittsburgh. If it has to be more than a couple of weeks, there's probably trouble, but he's the safest of the backups. McCollum is going to get healthy. He should be good for week 1. He'll be the backup center. He can, he filled in for Frazier last year. He can do it again for a couple of days, but the depth overall is tough. And if Pittsburgh has the injuries they had last year, and they had a bunch of injuries on the O-line last year, they're going to be in deep trouble. So the starters themselves still have a lot to show, but the depth, they cannot really afford any sort of significant injuries up front.
Okay. And none of the guys third string have shown anything like they could be practice squad and promise anything.
I mean, a couple guys could make it. Dylan Cook was an intriguing guy a couple years ago. He's lost some steam. Stephen Jones is a big body that's play tackle and guard, but nobody who's really going to help you out right now, and probably not a lot in terms of prospects long-term.
Okay. Let's slide over to the defense, and we'll start up front. Derek Harmon, of course, was the big first-round pickup. They also added Yahya Black from Iowa. Of course, that's a big dude. And let's just go there. You could see in orange, those are more free agents, 4 guys that are, I'm sure just one of them hoping to make the team. So how does, first of all, start up front? Because I was actually surprised when I read Cameron Hayward talking about a contract. Is that a thing? I mean, I could have sworn he was just going to play out his contract when it was over, and that was it. Now he's looking for some more guaranteed money.
Yeah, it's a little complicated, a little into the weeds of the numbers. The extension he signed last year really offered no new money. It was a little more ceremonial, a little more he wanted to play through 2026, so the extension went through there. Now he's trying to get paid after the really strong year that he had. I think there'll be some relatively small tweak to his contract, maybe some cash advance, some sort of salary raise for 2025. I know there's been a little bit of a threat of missing regular season games. I don't think it's going to get that far. So this will probably be a story that gets resolved well before September 7th.
Okay. And Benton, of course, this is a big year for him. The Steelers, I'm sure, would like for him to take that next step. And how has Harmon looked as well as Yahya Black?
Yeah, Harmon's looked good. I mean, he's a guy that has some of those Cam Hayward shades to him, where he's strong, he's physical, the bull rush has gotten better. He's able to, he's doing a nice job using his length and getting extension in the run game, stacking and shedding some of the old school two gapping that Pittsburgh still does. So he's been effective overall. He's going to start at left defensive end in Pittsburgh's base 3-4. He's going to rotate in behind Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton in sub packages. This guy's going to play a lot of football, and Pittsburgh's not holding him back one iota. Y.A. Black to me has been a really pleasant surprise. Now he looks like a nose tackle. He has not played any 3-4 nose tackle. He has been a defensive end. They like his size. They like his length there. He's got more juice and more energy and pass rush than I thought he had coming out of Iowa. He uses his extension well. He's getting off of blocks. He's getting some pressure. He runs to the football really hard. He's batted down probably a half dozen passes in training camp, that length and size, and the vision that he has to get his hands in throwing lanes. So some of those kind of just hallmarks of a classic Steelers defensive lineman. You're big, you're long, you hustle, you get your hands up in throwing lanes. He's checking those boxes. He went from somebody that was, to me, a roster bubble guy at the start of training camp to roster lock, who's going to rotate in fairly heavily this season.
Does that mean the addition at nose from the Patriots is he now going to slide into backup nose?
Yeah, Daniel Koala has run backup nose tackle all summer, so He is who he is. He's not much of a pass rusher, kind of a late bloomer in his career, but he'll be the backup nose tackle and make this team. And
I see that Leal is gone. Is that the case?
Leal has now been playing outside linebacker all training camp. So they bounced him around a lot in his career. Yeah, he's floating down there. It just was a bad fit. They never really had a good plan of what to do with him. He's had some injury issues. His rookie year, missed most of last year with a neck injury. Could you try to trade him for a conditional 7th round pick to a 4-3 team? That's probably best for him, but it just never. He's a really good athlete. He's really, like pound for pound, he might be the best athlete on this team just because he's a big guy that is super, super easy and fluid mover, but it just has never really fully come together. He's bounced between defensive line and big outside linebacker. It's just not going to last. It's just not going to work.
Okay. And any of those other free agents, other 3 free agents, do they have a chance to make the team?
Maybe Oto Mewa a little bit, but probably looking more practice squad if anything there. Loudermilk is who he is, a low ceiling run stuffer. Logan Lee's probably fighting for a spot. He's the guy that missed his rookie year with a hamstring injury, came back. He's played okay, a little more athletic, a little more crafty as a pass rusher. Actually had to become Pittsburgh's emergency long snapper against Tampa Bay. The starting long snapper got hurt. They had nobody else, and so Lee had to come in, did a nice job. Not going to get him a roster spot, but Lee, we're looking probably practice squad or maybe last spot on the 53 for him.
Okay. TJ Watt got his contract, not a surprise. And he has Alex Highsmith flanking him, and then also backing them up, Herbig and the 4th round draft pick, Jack Sawyer. So how has Herbig and Sawyer looked? I know Herbig is a guy that has really played a lot better than I think some people realize outside of Pittsburgh. So maybe there's even more in his game. But Sawyer was really a nice draft pick that the Steelers picked up, and we talked about it at the time.
Yeah, that was good value in the 4th round. He's a guy that's been, as advertised, a crafty, smart pass rusher, playing a lot of snaps in Pittsburgh this summer because TJ Watt's gotten a lot of rest days. Alex Highsmith has battled a groin injury. Nick Herbig just suffered a minor hamstring injury, so a lot of snaps there for the taking for Jack Sawyer. The games have been a little less impressive. Maybe the conditioning's been a bit of a factor. He's had to play a lot on the special teams, too. I think of the non-offensive linemen and non-quarterbacks, only Galbraith has played more snaps this preseason than Jack Sawyer, so they've really leaned on him quite a bit. But he's a crafty guy that can win inside, can counter well, can hold up against the run, so I like his progression. He'll be the number 4 outside linebacker. Herbig could start for a bunch of teams, probably half the league. Pittsburgh's really fortunate to have him as their number 3, really good rotational guy. So I think top to bottom, it's a really impressive outside linebacker room.
And is that about it? Do you expect there to be a 5th edge?
I do not. I think there's some practice squad material with Aku Leota, who got a cup of coffee in Carolina last year and a little bit of time in Pittsburgh. He's a undersized guy in that Herbig type of mold. Good first step. Practice squad probably for him. Welshoff was the international exemption, so those 2 guys probably practice squad, but I don't see another guy being kept on 53.
Okay. Inside, of course, there's Patrick Queen and Peyton Willis, one of my favorites from last year. He's just going to keep getting better and better. Harrison comes in from Baltimore. And this is important. And of course, you got Holcomb there as well, because the Steelers they like to play some of these guys on the field a lot, don't they? They'll play 3 inside linebackers at once.
They have been doing that. They did it last year. They did it 2 years ago. I wonder if that's going to change this year because of the, as you said, that maturation of Peyton Wilson. I think Pittsburgh wants to now go back to its traditional 2 guys, Queen and Wilson being the top 2. Now, there's good depth. Holcomb, he's come back from a severe 2023 November injury, missed all of last year. He looks, I don't want to say he looks exactly like himself in coverage. The foot speed may not quite be there, but he's looked good overall. He's going to make this team. Harrison should make it too, especially as a 4-phase ace special teamer. I think he's played the 3rd most snaps of anyone on special teams since coming out of the draft. But I think they want Queen and Wilson to be the guy, and Queen's got to step up in year 2. It wasn't quite the year that he needed to have in Pittsburgh last year. Maybe that was the newness to the system. He's got to be able to wear the green dot and still play at a high level individually. In Wilson, if that run defense can improve a little bit, which I think it has, then you're looking at a really high end inside linebacker. He fell to the 3rd round, not for a talent issue. It was the medical about the shoulders and the knees. And he's been healthy. He's not missed any time in Pittsburgh. And this guy can really play. So it's a good room. But I think they want to go from the 3-man rotation to a top 2 of Queen and Peyton Wilson.
And then, of course, Bruner was picked up in the 7th round, which, again, we talked about. I thought that was a pretty nice value pick there. Is he going to make the team?
Probably practice squad. He's battled Mark Robinson. Robinson, a little more established special teamer and probably a little more trust with him defensively. So I think Robinson will be number 5 inside backer with Bruner going to the practice squad.
All right. And then in the secondary, of course, the big trade for Jalen Ramsey. Talk about that trade. I know we weren't able to chat much there. So was that... Tell me, first of all, what you think what was the thought process of acquiring Ramsey and letting Fitzpatrick go, and what did the fans think?
So much for a sleepy end of June when every other fan base was kind of just chilling, getting ready for the 4th of July. Pittsburgh had the fireworks early, Greg. Pittsburgh's offseason theme, I think you could sum it up as physical playmakers. They wanted to add physical playmakers in the draft. They did so with the front 7 with Caleb Johnson at running back. They did so with their acquisitions of DK Metcalf. And certainly this Ramsey trade checked those boxes too. Not just him, but Jonnu Smith was part of that deal. It was Smith and Ramsey for Minkah Fitzpatrick, also a 2027 pick swap. So it certainly caught me by surprise. I've been a big fan of Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think he'll bounce back and have a good season in Miami. But, getting to see Ramsey in person at training camp, the word I would use to describe him is presence. There's a presence about Jalen Ramsey. And no, maybe he's not quite in the prime of his career, but he's still a physical alpha type of dude who I think embodies everything Pittsburgh wants his defense to really get back to becoming, again, that physical, aggressive, rough and tumble in the AFC North nature. He's versatile. He's played slot corner, outside corner. He'll play safety in Pittsburgh's base 3-4 defense. He'll wear a lot of hats for this team. He's certainly embraced and been open to that. So I think it's been really good for Jalen Ramsey this summer. Okay, so with Porter there, and I see that we have him listed as a nickel. Is that how it's going to be run? Slay and Porter on the outside and Ramsey on the inside? Largely, yes. That's how it was in training camp. And nickel, that's how it was. Now, when they play the Bengals and Jamar Chase, I imagine Ramsey will see some more outside time and be shadowing a lot of Jamar Chase. But generally speaking, that's how it'll be. And then in Pittsburgh's base 3-4, which is used about a quarter of the time per hour charting, Ramsey will go back and play safety. So it'll be Porter and Slay on the outside, and then Ramsey and Elliott at safety. So in a sense, think about Juan Thornhill being more the 5th DB than Jalen Ramsey being the 5th DB.
Interesting. Okay. And what about the depth in that backfield? They made an interesting pickup after the draft in Sebastian Castro. A lot of people thought he was draftable material, had a nice career at Iowa. And then they added several free agents and the leftovers too. Of course, Beanie Bishop surprised everybody with the playing time he had last year as a CFA. So and then they drafted also Kent in round 7. So how's the backup situation look?
I'll say at corner, I think they're as deep at corner as they have been in quite some time. Now, they're really a great trio of Slay, who's had a good summer, Porter still emerging, still rising, and of course, Ramsey and Brendan Eccles has really had a nice camp. He's played inside and outside, more outside, but he's also gotten a lot of slot work over the last week or so, and he could be that really good next man up if there was an injury, potentially even a 60B dime defender in the Steelers' defense and secondary. It's also because, unfortunately, Corey Trice Jr., who was a immensely talented corner, injured again, a hamstring injury in early August. He's been out since then. That's a potential IR to return candidate to begin this season. So that's been unfortunate for him. Bishop has struggled for reps. We'll see if he makes a team. He's probably inside looking out the bubble right now, but no guarantee there. But the cornerback room, I think, overall is good. Kent's been hurt his foot early in training camp, so not expecting much there. Pierre, a special teamer. At safety, Elliott's been really steady and strong. Thornhill's had a really good summer. Will that carry over? We'll see. But he's been aggressive. He's around the football, another kind of alpha, loud, brash type of personality. Pittsburgh doesn't mind collecting. Chuck Clark was signed in training camp. He'll make this team. He's had a good summer. Veteran, established depth, Killebrew, special teamer. And then Castro has come on stronger, but it's going to be practice squad for Sebastian Castro.
Okay. And Clark, is that a recent signing just late in the summer?
That was a couple days into training camp to get some safety depth in there. He's worked his way up the depth chart. He should make this team as a reserve safety.
All right. And how is the special teams unit looking right now? Boswell do you think there's a possibility that when they picked up Sauls, it was one of those deals where they know Boswell is going to be the starter this year, but they're just keeping Sauls around and hope that maybe they'll stash him on the practice squad and he'll eventually replace Boswell at some point if it looks like he can handle the starting job in the next year or two?
No, I think they just wanted the second leg. Boswell's in his mid-30s now, hard to believe. He also, some will call it a hold-in with Boswell. He also, like Hayward, wants a revised contract of some sort. I wouldn't call it a hold-in because, if a kicker doesn't practice, they won't even notice anyway in the first place. But he did some stuff this training camp. He played in the game on Saturday, so they'll get some sort of rework deal done with him, but he's going to be the guy through and through. It gets a little interesting from there. There's a real punter battle between Cameron Johnston and Corliss Waitman. Johnston missed almost all of last year. Waitman came in and punted really well. Those guys have had both really good summers. Flip a coin to see who wins this battle. I can't tell you which way it's going to go right now. Maybe I put Waitman on my last roster prediction, so that's probably where I'm leaning a little bit because he's had a slightly better summer, but this thing is super, super close. And then even Christian Kuntz got hurt in Saturday's game. His status for week one, a little uncertain right now. So as you see on screen, they just signed Jake McQuaid, a two-time Pro Bowler, almost 200 career games there. Kuntz says he believes he'll be ready for week one, so we'll go with that for now, but it gets a little interesting on the specialists.
Okay, now let's take a look at where the team stands. Where are we? Here we go. As far as the AFC North is concerned, the third choice by a couple, almost double, but then the Bengals. Are you surprised by that?
No, I think most odds makers are putting Pittsburgh in that third place boat, and given the Bengals' upside and potency, I can understand that. But Pittsburgh has done really well against the AFC North. The Bengals certainly have their questions, especially with the Trey Hendrickson saga getting messier and messier by the day. So I don't pay a lot of attention to the odds. They've been putting Pittsburgh at like over under 8.5 wins for 5 seasons now, and they've hit the over every single season. So the odds makers typically are a bit lower on Pittsburgh, and typically the Steelers surpass those expectations. Certainly the AFC North is going to be really competitive, and if the Bengals finish second, it's not going to surprise anybody, myself included, but I think this thing will be a fight to the very end.
Do you have a prediction yourself? Have you made that yet? Where you think the Steelers are going to land?
Not yet. I'll do that right before the season begins. You're probably sitting there in that classic 9 to 10 win range. It does feel like the roster is better than last year, but it doesn't always manifest itself to more wins, given the schedule, given the AFC North. The roster was probably better last year than it was 2 years ago, and you didn't really see a real change in results in that. So I don't know exactly where I'll be. Again, like I said, a lot of odds makers kind of put the money around 8.5 wins. They should surpass that. The bottom line is really less about, do they win 9 games or 10 games? It's about, do they win a playoff game? You can win 13 games. You lose in the playoffs, one and done, with same old Steelers. And so that's really the litmus test to measure any sort of success. You want to do more than win a playoff game. That shouldn't be the bar, but that's the obstacle, the hurdle you have to get over. And so whether you win 10 games or 14 games, the playoffs is really how this team gets defined in terms of, is there progression?
And week one, a very intriguing matchup. I'm sure this was by no accident. The Jets and the Steelers will kick things off. The Steelers right now, I think they dropped from 3 to 2.5. I'm sure you could bounce around at any sports book and you'll get a different take there. What do you think about the week one matchup? I know it's going to be fun. I mean, both quarterbacks switching teams and road game. What do you think about the matchup? I'm sure you're going to start getting into it soon.
Right. Yeah. Certainly coming up on the horizon. As you said, not an accident, very much intentional. and had the NFL known, had Rodgers signed before the schedule came out in May, this would be a primetime game. No question about that. The NFL admitted they kind of hedged and said, we'll put it for a 1:00 game, but we're also going to make it week 1 for that intriguing storyline. I haven't given a lot of thoughts necessarily to that game in general. The Jets have some injuries right now. And so we'll kind of see what's happening there. At least Fields looks okay and he'll be good to go for week number 1. I think overall, my takeaway for the early part of the schedule, well, some may call it the quote unquote easier part of the schedule, and maybe on paper it is. I don't really care about those things too much. I look at the defensive heavy nature of the first 4 teams Pittsburgh is facing. You guys see on screen right now, the Jets, the Seahawks, the Patriots, the Vikings. You're facing Aaron Glenn. You're facing Mike McDonald, Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores as DC. How will that Steelers young offensive line, which I continue to look at as the litmus test for can Pittsburgh win this year? Can they have success? How will they handle those defensive-minded coaches, those defensive-minded schemes, those pass rushers of Grenard and Will McDonald and all the chaos Brian Flores throws at you? That's really going to, I think, dictate how this offense and how this offensive line gets viewed out of the gate, because you're facing some really good talent. And then, of course, in week 6, you're facing Myles Garrett. So you're jumping into the deep end for this offensive line, facing schematically and personnel-wise some really good defenses.
I don't think anybody wants the early bye. Would that be correct?
Including the Steelers, who said we did not ask for the week 5 bye. The NFL just gave them that. Yeah, no one likes the early bye.
Yeah, so it's right after they go to London, then at least, right?
Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, Dublin. Okay, and then and then they're off and running for the rest of the schedule with those 2 games there in the division. Which division do they face? Is it the AFC South?
In the AFC. You're saying?
Yeah, which is their
I think it's the AFC East it's looking like.
AFC East. Okay. So all right. And how many primetime games?
4 or 5. That's usually what they're around right now. Yeah, they got that Packers game you guys see on screen, that Rodgers game. That'll be the throwback day. Pittsburgh will wear their 1933 throwback jersey. So it'll be a marquee game for a lot of reasons.
What does that look like? Does it look like anything like those really weird jailbreak uniforms they've been wearing recently?
Objectively, they are ugly, but I love the homage of it. But yeah, if you see them, I don't know if you can pull it up, but they're ugly as sin, but I love them all the same. Okay.
And here's the rest of the schedule. Look at that. Buffalo and Baltimore back-to-back weeks. Detroit.
Yeah, the end of the schedule, it gets dicey for sure.
Yeah, certainly looks like that. Where would that be? Steelers.
Yeah, 1933 throwbacks. You type that in, they should come up. I want to get your take on it. Yeah, those ones.
This one right here?
To the left probably is what they're actually gonna wear. Yeah, those will probably be the jerseys.
That's not bad. I think it's better than what they would shoot. Yeah, the ones that I've seen the last couple of years, I didn't like at all.
No.
But this looks better.
Yeah, they wore those 33 throwbacks in the 90s. I think these versions are an upgrade overall. So as long as they win, you look good winning, and that's all I care about.
That is true. We all know that. All right, excellent, Alex. So I've got links in the description for all of your information, social media, how to follow you, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. When are you on as far as podcasts?
The Terrible Podcast with myself and my co-host Dave Bryan at Steelers Depot every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So just recorded a show today. We also have a little mini show, The Terrible Take, every day, comes out 5 p.m. Eastern time.
And do you do a post-game show?
I do a video on YouTube, my YouTube channel, just my name on there, and then the podcast comes out always the next day. So that's the best way to find it. But of course, the website, SteelersDepot.com, has immediate coverage and nonstop analysis, including right now.
Do you do it live?
The YouTube, no, we don't do that live. We will have every other Monday, including tonight, we have a live stream with myself and Dave on YouTube answering just a Q&A session. So that'll be the live thing we have tonight and every other Monday throughout the season.
Alex, great to have you with us again. I look forward to calling on you during the season. That's for sure, because I'm guessing, barring major injuries, the Steelers, as usual, like you said just a few minutes ago on the win totals, they're going to win 9 or 10 games. That's the Steelers, which means that they're going to be in the thick of it, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity to chat a few times. Since we've already talked, I'm sure we won't talk before the Jet game, but I guess I'd say best of luck. But yeah, best of luck.
Well, worst of luck to you guys, but it'll be a fun game, and good luck, and thanks for having me on, Greg.
Thanks a lot, Alex. That's Alex Kozora. Again, SteelersDepot.com. We'll see you next time here.